Salt Lake City, Utah. Welcome to the program. It is the Sean O'Connell Show. His guy Zakariah holding it down from now 11 a.m. until 2 p.m., which, as always, is the time that Spence Checketts takes over for the drive. Until then, I got 3 action-packed hours for you. Tons to get to, and if you are listening to the sound of my voice and you are in the general vicinity of Beer Bar, you need to come on down and see me. Now, you can't come see me for another hour. We wait until the PM portion of the show for you to come on down, but you should come on down for a bunch of reasons. Number 1, to see me. Number 2, we got tickets for you. Excellent food here, excellent drinks here. Tons of reasons to come on by and say hello on your lunch break, or if you got the day off, come say hello. I'm friendly. I am a people person. It is located in the heart of downtown at 161 East, 200 South. Got over 100 beers with 30 on tap, offering amazing burgers and brats with a side of fries. Got to have fries. Also have amazing salads if you're trying to keep it a little bit more healthy, and soups with homemade sourdough bread. I'm an Italiano, so you're speaking my language when you're talking homemade sourdough bread. And if you know Cotton Bottom's famous burger is also going to be served here today. French bread, garlic patty, cheese, shredded lettuce, tomato, onion, and mayo. Comes with a bag of Lay's potato chips. You can add an extra patty if you're super hungry for $5. Come on down and see me. Like I said, 161 East, 200 South. And we'll begin the show as we begin every Sean O'Connell show. And when Zakariah is holding it down for him, I just spoke in third person. That's right. I had to. But we start every show with a little Utes twist to the program. There's a bunch to talk about. I don't know how much any of you cared about the NBA Emirates Cup that took place last night as the Bucks. I don't know what happened to the Thunder in the second half. I had to. Who was that? Who was that, Z-Rob? By the way, just so you know, I'm on remote. Z-Rob's back at the studio behind the glass on the 1s and 2s, so we don't have the nonverbal communication that we normally have. I don't know who that that's right, I had to do that was. Who was that, Z-Rob?
Sorry, I was checking, make sure the stream was going, and I thought I had the pot off, and it was still on. So that was my fault. I'm very sorry, but Zakariah,
no, it's all good. Was that me?
Yeah, that was you.
Oh, that was me just delayed.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
How are you?
I have my own drop of myself. I'll take it. So, yeah, I don't know how much people in the Utah area gave 2 bleeps about the NBA Emirates Cup last night. I don't know what happened to the Thunder in the second half, but the Bucks absolutely thwarted them. I have a lot of issues with that, which we'll get to over the course of the show. But Milwaukee Bucks, you didn't win a championship. Now, you won it, unfortunately, over my Suns 4 years ago, or I don't even know how many years ago that was now, back when the Suns had CP3 and DeAndre Ayton. Booker was still there. Suns were up 2-0, then lost 4 straight. Not that I'm bitter about it or anything. But anyways, you can't celebrate an in-season cup like you've won the championship, which is exactly what they did. I thought it was a little embarrassing. You can get excited about it, but you can't drop confetti and hold the trophy up like it's the Larry O'Brien. You just can't. So we have that to get into. We have fun in the 40s, which is always fun. That's the whole point of the segment. But we start today with news that came in that tight end Carson Ryan has left the University of Utah and gone to BYU. I believe it's the first commitment BYU has gotten. And it's not a huge deal. Carson Ryan didn't have eye-popping numbers. But I certainly think, look, he was a guy that was dealing with injuries, so couldn't really fully participate in the offseason conditioning program that Utah runs. But I think that he is a versatile tight end that could be an asset for BYU come next year, or could have been for Utah had he stayed this year. But it got me to thinking, player or coach, and I guess we only have players right now because the transfer portal is semi-new. The NIL money is new. I think that as the years go on with the transfer portal, we're going to have a lot more players that we're going to be able to list off because it wasn't as easy to transfer before. So it's pretty much the whole list is coaches. But player or coach, who was the most shocking person to make the move from BYU to Utah or vice versa? And your options are A, Kyle Winningham, a graduate of Provo High School, an all-state linebacker and fullback, and earned 2 letters in baseball for the Bulldogs. He remained in Provo and played college football for the BYU Cougars from 78 to 81, where his father, Fred, was the linebacker coach, later defensive coordinator, under longtime head coach Lavelle Edwards. And in his senior season in 1981, I was still 2 years away from being born, he was the WAC Defensive Player of the Year and the defensive MVP of the Holiday Bowl. He played in 4 of those Holiday Bowls, a running back as a freshman in the inaugural, and a linebacker in the next 3, during which he recorded 27 tackles. In 2009, he was inducted into the Holiday Bowl Hall of Fame. Then he was a graduate assistant from 85 to 86, and then obviously made his way to Utah, where he was the defensive coordinator, defensive line coach, safeties coach, linebackers coach, and then defensive coordinator, and obviously the head coach. So was that the biggest move? You also have Kalani Sitake. His whole bio, he was BYU general assistant, then went to Southern Utah, then went to Utah, where he was the linebackers coach from 05 to 08, defensive coordinator from 09 to 011, 2012 to 2014, assistant head coach and defensive linebacker and linebackers coach. Then he went to Oregon State, and then he went to BYU, where he still is and has been since 2016, and probably will be for the next decade, as they've extended his contract that already ran a few years from the present day. So those are A and B. And then C, you got Jay Hill, who was at Utah, was the tight end coach, special team coordinator, cornerbacks coach, special teams coordinator, running backs coach, special team coordinator, tight ends coach, special teams coordinator. Then he went to Weber State for 8 years, and now he is the defensive coordinator at BYU. So, of those 3, which is the one that was the most shocking, most egregious, the one that stands out the most? You can vote on that on Twitter. I'm at Zach Sports, ZAK Sports. The station is at ESPN 700. And as always, you can text in on the Dish Pros text line, 877-353-0700. You can call in and you can text on that number again, 877-353-0700. So anyways, that was my Utah angle. Look, the season's over. It was a down season. Obviously, we're getting transfer portal updates daily, but I try to make my opening segment something related to Utah football. And the opening segment of the Sean O'Connell Show is brought to you by Alvy Armani. If you're having hair issues, gentlemen or ladies, maybe it's just thinning more than you'd like, let Alvy Armani help you out. Find them online at alvyarmani.com and tell them ESPN 792.1 FM sent you. Again, come on down, not right now. You got like 51 minutes. You can go get, nice and pretty or nice and handsome, however you call it, and come down and see me at Beer Bar, 161 East, 200 South. I haven't seen it in its full display yet because it's not open yet, but it looks very spacious. We got that. What's that slider game called? Shuffleboard. Yeah, we got some shuffleboard going on, some holiday decorations. Utah sports are proudly represented in here. And so come on down and see me. Now, the rest of the stuff, in terms of the major headlines, first of all, I can't wait to get to the 5th. And I have to apologize. Jackie's here. I think she's head of sales or something like that. She's a higher up. She's a big deal. She's here, so I don't want to get in trouble. But I brought up, the whole audio from my guy, Leggett, talking about eating raccoons, and I got a very vicious text message on the text line saying that I shouldn't be making light of it because that person was a vegetarian and they were appalled that I was laughing. Look, I didn't eat the raccoon, so I can't be yelled at for that. But I figured he's the only guy, other than maybe that small area in southern United States, that eats raccoon. But no. The most famous NFL owner, the most famous NFL owner in the world, even if you are a casual sport person, you know who Jerry Jones is. Jerry Jones is the owner of the Dallas Cowboys. And he came out and has some amazing audio that we will also get to later in the program. And again, my apologies to any vegetarians. All I can say is that I'm not the one eating them, killing them and eating them. I'm not doing that. So you can't get mad at me. If you want to get mad at Jerry Jones, go ahead. But don't blame it on me that other people eat raccoon. I found it shocking. I have never heard of anybody eating raccoon. The most I've heard is like a frog's leg or something, or like maybe some snake maybe I've heard. I don't know. Most people I know eat turkey, beef, and chicken. You know what I mean? That's it. That's usually the three things. Maybe, ham, bacon, yeah. But apparently this raccoons thing, if you're from the South, is not that rare. Would you say, Z-Rob?
I was about to say, you can also say cooked fish, raw fish, I
think fish, of course, yeah. Well, isn't fish aren't there some vegetarians that eat fish, and then there's there's some other one where they don't eat any of it?
That would be like pescatarian, where like you eat fish, but not like red meats or like white meats or poultry, if you would say.
Yeah, so like if you're a vegetarian, you can have sushi, right? You're a sushi chef.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Z-Rob?
Yeah, I am. So.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think any pescatarian can eat fish, as long as it's not farm raised, I believe is the term.
Okay.
So.
All right.
If it's fresh caught, not farm raised, then I think you're okay. So
it
depends on the fish too. So.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how to keep up. I want to make it clear. I'm not trying to be offensive. I'm simply delivering the news, which Z-Rob is my job as a sports broadcaster. If there's an NFL wide receiver that eats raccoon and there's audio on it, it's my job to play that. And now if the most famous owner, I would argue in all of sports, definitely in the NFL, Jerry Jones of the Cowboys, comes out and echoes that statement, it is my duty. It is my job, Z-Rob, to bring that to the people.
Yeah, it's my job.
Especially when it's an amazing Southern accent.
Yeah, it's my job to play that audio for you and also be a sports reporter or sports broadcaster, whatever.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that.
Of course.
Other news surrounding the world of sports, and again, weigh in on the Twitter poll. As I mentioned, at Zach Sports, ZAK Sports, I will retweet that as soon as I get a second, but right now it should be up at ESPN 700 with the news of BYU football landing a commitment from Utah transfer tight end Carson Ryan. Which person is the most shocking person to make the move from BYU to Utah or vice versa? Kyle Whittingham, Kalani Sitake, Jay Hill, or other? And if you vote other, please let us know who the other is.
I got one for you.
Okay, what do you got?
Aaron Roderick, the offensive coordinator for BYU currently.
Okay.
That's another big one.
And what's his background with the Utes?
He was also the offensive coordinator for Utah for a while before Andy Ludwig, I believe. If I'm not mistaken.
How many years back do you have to go for that?
Let me double check, but I know he was on Utah's staff as the of the offensive coordinator.
Gotcha. So other headlines, Caitlin Clark, her number 22 jersey will be retired by Iowa, as I've said on these airwaves and nobody cares about. Throughout my career, I wore 11 because I look like an 11. I'm tall and skinny. And then when I played junior college, they didn't have numbers below 20, so I chose 22. Deuce, deuce, cut him loose. It's 11 times 2. She wears number 22. Nobody else will in Iowa. That was kind of a no-brainer, I think, for anybody that followed Clark's career in college. Kind of took it by storm and then made the transition to the WNBA, and viewers came with her. It was why I had a hard time understanding why a lot of WNBA play. I mean, I get the resentment. There was a lot of solid, good basketball that was being played in the WNBA, prior to Caitlin Clark getting there. But, I mean, all you can say is that she brought eyeballs and ratings to the WNBA. So her number's going to be retired. Shout out to her. And then another shocking move. I mean, it's pretty unbelievable when you see things like this in the NFL. Kirk Cousins, you like that? Put that in my folder, Z-Rob, if you'd be so kind.
Will do.
You like that? Kirk Cousins yelling, you like that, after a post-game interview. Pretty famous sort of sound clip or whatever. But Kirk Cousins, who bet on himself and made more money, more guaranteed money than most quarterbacks by betting on himself, taking the franchise tags. He didn't care, then got a fat deal from Minnesota. That deal ran out. They drafted J.J. McCarthy, signed Sam Darnold to be sort of what I would have thought to be sort of a placeholder. But he's played phenomenal. I don't know what Minnesota's going to do with that. Next time we have an NFL, I should have asked Jeff about that yesterday. But next time we have an NFL guy on, I would love to know what Minnesota's supposed to do with Sam Darnold playing as well as he is, and they drafted J.J. McCarthy in the first round. But anyways, signs a 4-year, $180 million contract, which, okay, he played well in Minnesota. Minnesota wanted to move on, felt like maybe, he couldn't take them to the lengths and as deep in the playoffs as they wanted him to take them. So I get it. He part ways with Minnesota. He signs with Atlanta. All of it makes sense. Again, coming off of a torn right Achilles, and we saw how much of a struggle it was for Aaron Rodgers in the early part of this year. He's playing better ball now. But he signs the deal. What didn't make sense was selecting a quarterback in the first round. Now, this is one of my favorite college athletes of all time. And it's funny that they both happen to come, Z-Rob, from Washington. But one of my favorite, when I was going to Cal, and this guy would torch us, so I don't know why I loved him. But I just absolutely loved him. I don't even know if it's going to ring a bell for you, Z-Rob, because you're such a youngster. You probably can't even legally drink or drive or vote. But
wow.
I'm kidding. But Brandon Roy, whose NBA career was very much destroyed by knee injuries, he went to Washington. It was him and Nate Robinson, but Brandon Roy was the guy that stood out for me. Anyways, in a similar fashion, but for football, not for basketball, Michael Penix Jr. was incredible last year. Got his team all the way to the national championship. Unfortunately, he didn't have enough pieces around him, but he is one of the best throwers of the ball. I mean, anytime you watch the NFL and you see a quarterback basically place it in a wide receiver's hands, that's how good the throw is. They don't have to move. They don't have to dive. They don't have to jump. They don't have to turn around. It's just right in the breadbasket. That was Michael Penix Jr. in a nutshell last year. So anyways, the Falcons draft him, which was shocking. I believe 10th overall, if my memory serves.
9th overall.
Z-Rob, you can correct me if I'm wrong. They drafted him. It's like, okay, you just gave Kirk Cousins $180 million, of which $100 million is guaranteed, and then you're draft a Sphincter says what? In the words of Wayne's World, old movie reference there. But they draft a quarterback in the first round, so you figure, okay, placeholder, right? And despite a win against the Raiders on Monday night, it was a disgusting game, 15-9. But despite the win, they have benched Kirk Cousins. And Michael Penix Jr. is now the new starting quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons.
It's going to be interesting.
And Kirk Cousins is heading to the bench.
It's going to be interesting how this plays out as well. When we see Kirk Cousins having this legendary career, and then the Falcons go out and draft Michael Penix at number 9. And yes, I know who Brandon Roy is. I watched him as a kid. Don't worry. But it's interesting to see how this is going to play out, because we saw him play against the Broncos for a few snaps in the fourth quarter, 7 minutes left to go, I think, because I was watching that game, and I know I was talking with James, our program director, and I was like, yeah, I think it's a smart move for the Falcons, and Kirk Cousins has been 1 touchdown, 9 interceptions in the last 5 games, which is insane. And I've never seen this happen with Kirk Cousins. I know he's coming off an Achilles injury, and he was balling out for a while in the first 2 months, probably, I would say. But I'm interested to see how Raheem Morris handles this with Penix, and how this offense is going to operate with Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Darnell Mooney, Brian Robinson. It's good. Sorry, not Brian Robinson. Bijan Robinson, excuse me. So it's definitely interesting to see. And I think if this plays out as Penix wants, I think there's a chance that Cousins gets dropped or Cousins stays on the team to help coach Penix in becoming this quarterback. That's what we were talking about earlier.
I just don't know what you. I just don't know what you do with Kirk with that much guaranteed money. I was reading an article on 5 possible destinations of where he could go. But I just don't know what you do. This is the first year, Z-Rob. It's not like he struggled for a couple of years and, they're trying to find somebody else. This is the first year. And you look at Penix Jr.'s stats on the year. He's only thrown 5 passes, completed 3 of them for a total of 38 yards. He took a sack. But, look, I would understand, you should also put this in my folder, Z-Rob, when you get a chance. Sorry, I'm going to give you like 80 different drops that I want in there. I think I already have a folder. So some of the stuff that I'm asking for should already be there because I tend to repeat myself. But one of my favorite movies of all time is White Man Can't Jump. They redid it with one of those new artists. I don't even know. Whatever those, something Malone maybe, or
it was
I
Jack
don't
Harlow.
know. Anyways.
Jack Harlow.
There you go. They redid it. Obviously not as good as the original. The original with Woody Harrelson and Wesley Snipes and the lovely, lovely, and still lovely to this day, Rosie Perez. There is a line where they're sitting on a bus, and Rosie says to Woody Harrelson, she says, sometimes when you win, you really lose. Sometimes when you lose, you really win. And sometimes when you win or lose, you actually tie. And, of course, Woody just, his name is Billy Ho in the movie, and he just throws his hands up and says, what the bleep are you talking about, But I totally, on many levels, understand and connect with Rosie Perez. I know what she was talking about. Sometimes you can lose a game. Let's say you lose a game on a freak Hail Mary, or you lose a game because the referees were terrible, or you lose a game because one of your key starters got hurt, or you lose a game because it just didn't go your way, whatever it was. Sometimes you can lose a game, but really the way that you played and the way that luck was working against you, you really won the game. And then sometimes, and this is what I'm talking about in this instance, you can win a game against the lowly, emphasis on lowly, Oakland Raiders, or I'm sorry, I do that with everything, but whatever. The Las Vegas Raiders, hard for me to say specifically since I'm a Berkeley boy and that's the city right next to Oakland. But the Las Vegas Raiders, they beat them 15-9, but a team that's that bad, and if you have playoff aspirations, now they're one game behind the Bucs for the division, you beat them 15-9, a team that pathetic. You actually lost that game even though you won. And that's where the Rosie Perez thing comes into play. And that's what I think Raheem Morris took a look at everything and said, we're coming off a win. You don't often see, Z-Rob, quarterbacks get benched coming off of a win.
No, not at all.
But this was an ugly win against a terrible team. So, again, even though they won, they kind of lost. And he said, you know what? We're not going to be able to beat other teams with this quarterback play.
I have a theory real quick. Remember how –
What do you got?
Remember how Robert Griffin III was the starting quarterback for the Redskins when they were still the Redskins, right?
Yep.
And Kirk Cousins was
Kirk
sitting behind him.
because he kept getting hurt. Yep.
I'm thinking that this is kind of the same thing that's happening without the injury, obviously. But this might be like the same thing that's happening to Kirk and Penix, like how it happened to Griffin and Kirk. You ever thought about that?
Interesting.
That's just a theory. I don't know. Also, I have that Aaron Rodgers stat. 2006 to 2016, he was the offensive coordinator, and then he became the passing game coordinator in 2017 for BYU, and then was promoted to the offensive coordinator in 2020.
Okay, all right. Well, maybe that'll pop up in the others. Coming up, bottom of the hour, love talking football with this guy, Alex Markham, publisher for the U Boys on Ute Nation. We will talk to him about all of the things that are going on. What does he make of that, Utah losing Ryan to the portal to BYU? Is that a sign of things to come or just a little blip on the radar? So we will talk with Alex Markham coming up next at the bottom of the hour. Our show today and every day is brought to you by Les Schwab Tires. Les Schwab has the tires, wheels, and accessories for whatever you drive. Stop by your local Les Schwab today, and their professionals will get the job right the first time. Don't forget, come on down. You got about 35 minutes until we open the doors down here at Beer Bar. Again, same ownership as Cotton Bottom. We have the garlic burger. There are brats that I know OC loves. I was listening to him one time do a show live from here, and he was salivating over the brats. I'm definitely going to have some food. I'll let you know what I choose. I might have to go for the Cotton Bottom Garlic Burger since it's so well-renowned. And also, don't forget, if you don't feel like lunch yet, that's okay. We have breakfast sandwiches, easy for me to say, all day long here. Again, located in the heart of downtown, 161 East, 200 South. Don't forget about our poll. Go ahead and vote on it. Players or coaches, who is the most shocking person to make the move from BYU to Utah or vice versa? Kyle Whittingham, Kalani Sitake, Jay Hill, or other? If you pick other, please say who when you're choosing the other. At ESPN 700, at Zach Sports, ZAK Sports. I'll pull up the text line here in a second. The Dish Pros text line is 877-353-0700. You can call on that number as well, 877-353-0700. Coming up next, let's talk some Big 12. Let's talk some Utah. Let's talk some BYU, all with Alex Markham. That's coming up next. You're listening to the Sean O'Connell Show. His guy Zakariah holding it down right here at the Beer Bar, ESPN 700. appeared a little bit on the show, but those 2 seasons of the Chappelle Show were just incredible. And they had a running joke where his friend who's white and Dave Chappelle was obviously black, Dave Chappelle would always say that any black person that was accused of something was innocent. And so one of the scenes is pleading the fifth. And so he's saying, I plead the fifth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, fifth. Anyways, I love it. So that's what I named my oh man.
It was oh god, it would not pass nowadays, but the black white supremacist, Clayton Bigsby.
Oh yeah. I can't believe that aired. I can't even believe that aired. But yeah, it was on cable television, so they got away with it. But yeah, dude, that was incredible.
That was one of those where, like, all the different SNL ones, right, that they turned into movies back in the day. If they could have turned that into a movie before it would have been, like, outlawed to air. Oh, my gosh.
Oh, that would have been an incredible movie. The biggest testament I could give is that my father, God rest his soul, liked very few shows, liked very few movies. He would walk out on movies. Like, he barely liked anything. He liked Aladdin. He liked Good Morning Vietnam. He liked like a couple other movies, but he pretty much hated everything. And he hated all sitcoms, including Seinfeld, which is regarded as the best ever. But I came home one day, probably 20 years ago or 30 years ago, whatever it was, and he's sitting in front of the television, and he doesn't hear me come in. He's just laughing his tail off, and I'm like, what could my dad possibly be watching that he liked? He liked Letterman, but it was too early for that. And so I kind of sneak around the living room, and he's watching Dave Chappelle. And I was like, that is the ultimate compliment to that show. If you get my dad to like it, then it's incredible.
No kidding.
Anyways, let's talk some Utah sports, shall we? I know we touched on AJ DeBonsa, and I just want to know, since the last time we spoke, what kind of buzz is going around? How excited is just that program as a whole? And what have been the after effects that you've seen?
You just talked about AJ DeBonsa, though. So, what do you mean?
No, I just mean like what have you been reading or seeing or hearing about just the effect that signing has had since the last time we spoke?
Yeah, I mean, just from Utah's perspective, or what? AJ DeBonsa, are you talking Devin Dampier?
No. I was talking a little hoop with you just because that was the number one. That's the number one recruit. That's the guy that's projected to go to number one. I mean, yeah, you can give a Utah slant on it. Like, how can Utah get to the point where they're landing landing that guy?
Yeah, no, you know what? I mean, I can talk with you on some BYU stuff too a little bit. I mean, when it comes down to it, yeah, I cover the Utes, but I mean, I got my ear down a lot and stuff like that. And I mean, dude, it's like, let's face it, like, Ute fans don't like it. They're not happy about it. They're going to spin things on Ryan Smith all they want, right? But the truth is, I mean, it's going to be good for the local economy. It's good for the state. It's good for basketball. Draws eyes, and BYU. I mean, the movement that they've had with some of the recruits that they've been able to get, it's pretty scary, to the point where I know, Utah's trying to figure things out behind the scenes. I know that there are some different little things that, probably shouldn't fully go into detail on, that were going on in the off season, where, just some stuff with trying to figure out NIL, but kind of had some stipulations to it from Utah's standpoint. So it's reverberating throughout the state. And, BYU's, BYU's shown that they're a force with the basketball stuff, throughout the country now with this one, not even just the States. So it's a good thing. It's a good thing for the local economy. It's a good thing for the sports scene. Ute fans are gonna fuss a ton about Ryan Smith and what's gone on with that. I mean, what I've been told is, even though he was heavily involved with, helping court AJ, that none of the money came from him. Did he help arrange it? Yeah, he helped arrange it, right? But when you have somebody like that in your corner, and you have somebody like Danny Ainge in your corner too, that's a pretty scary duo, and it just happens that they're both associated with the Jazz too.
Yeah, well, you know what? We need the running Utes to get a recruit like that ASAP. I mean, tip cap to BYU and good for the state, but we have a division between the state in the red and the blue. So we need a guy like that to come to the red and the running Utes. All right, before we get to Dampier, and I want to talk about him, obviously a huge upheaval for the Utah Utes offensive side, I want to start with Wilson coming back. I was, in a word, and I don't use this loosely, I was flabbergasted. I figured for sure, I mean, not only hearing some rumors about maybe him being a problem in the locker room, but just specifically that the offense was so different than what he committed to last year, I figured he was gone for sure. But this coming out of the portal and returning to Utah came after a meeting with new offensive coordinator Jason Beck. So what did you make of the news about Isaac Wilson coming back?
I mean, from what I'm told, it was multiple meetings. I don't know that the first meetings went well, and so with something like that, I mean, you got to look at it from a few perspectives, okay? I mean, Wilson's going into the offseason hurt. Teams are going to look down on that regardless of if he's going to be able to play spring ball or not, right?
Mm-hmm.
On top of that, I mean, he didn't look good this year at all. He had flashes, right? But again, there's no market for somebody like that, And so when it comes down to it, do you want to stay where you kind of feel like you're comfortable, within a program with knowing certain things, knowing that, you didn't have a great year the year before, but now you've got a more simplistic offense, right? And even though it's different, it could benefit him. Like, here's the other thing too. Like, you fans that want to sit back and say, "Oh, quarterback controversy, quarterback competition," there is no way in hell, right? The only way there's a quarterback competition is if Cam ends up deciding that he's going to come back and Cam ends up staying healthy. This is, other than that, is Devin Dampier. Isaac's not going to compete for the starting job with Devin Dampier. And so really I see this next year as something where, like, opportunistically, it's something that he can sit back and he can redshirt and he can soak things in, since I didn't go for him this way this year. He was put in a rough situation with this offense where you pretty much need a seasoned vet that knows offenses inside and out to be able to run it, because there's so many checks at line of scrimmage and going to it with a certain amount of plays and being able to call in and call out of them. So Isaac had a lot to learn, right? And so that contributed to a lot of his just bluntly bad play, but I do think that this offense is going to be better because it's going to be quicker. It's going to be more simplistic, and just, it's an effective offense. Now, the other stuff that you're alluding to,
mm-hmm.
I mean, there were echoes of it. There were strong echoes of it, right? I've talked to plenty of people and heard plenty of different things. Same thing too is you got to sit back and you got to look at it and say, okay, how much of this was an 18-year-old kid thrown into a bad situation? It was an opportunistic situation for him, right? But a bad situation where it was all these guys sitting back expecting to be led by, I've said it time and time again, expecting to be led by the captain of all freaking captains. You throw Cam Rising on any team in the country, he's gonna be their main captain. That's just how it is, right? And then you have to adjust to something like that. That's a tall task to ask an 18-year-old kid that, like, look, would you have been mature enough to handle that back when you were 18? There's not a lot of people, and it's, and it's on him now to be able to sit back and, reflect on, what went right, because there were some things that went right,
mm-hmm.
what all went wrong, and where he can improve on it.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk a little bit about Devin Dampier coming in. Obviously, it's going to be a totally different looking offense for not only all the players and the coaches that are in the building, but I think fans are going to be especially shocked when they start watching the first games of the Utah Utes and they are seeing something that they have not been used to seeing since, 2004 and Alex Smith. Now, do you think that Kyle Whittingham had these 2 years to go, okay, the offense wasn't working, Coach Ludd is now gone, we are now moving forward with a totally different offensive coordinator and an offensive philosophy? Or do you think that Witt's going to have a little bit of an influence? Because if you were to disparage Dampier, it's that his 57.9 completion percentage, which, 10 years ago would be fine, but nowadays is not, and his 1-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio leaves a little bit to be desired. So do you think he's going to have a little bit, like, let's say 10% of an influence on the offense, or do you think he's going to totally step back, let Beck do his thing, and focus on the defense?
I can tell you what was talked about, but I can also tell you my history with the track record. Jason Beck pretty much told him, like, hey, look, this is my offense. This is my side of the ball. I need to be able to do what I feel like is best. I will take input from you, but it's my decisions. Okay. It's Kyle Whittingham, though. Kyle, again, he's a legend. He's going to go down as the greatest coach in Utah history. But he, again, plays a conservative route. He wants ball control to the point where you just wonder at what point in the season, if something starts to go a little bit wrong, and then all of a sudden he puts that foot down and says, no, this is what it is. This is what has to be done. That's just what I see with Kyle. So I'd say Kyle's going to have a lot more than 10% say on this offense. I don't think it's going to be a crazy amount of say at the start of the season, but I do think that it's going to evolve that way because just knowing Kyle, it's going to evolve that way.
Carson Ryan leaving Utah, going to BYU. For the listeners out there that might not be as on the ball as you are, what have you made from the guys that have gone out and the guys that are coming in?
The guys that have gone out, the guys that are coming in, Carson was a bit of a blow, but the thing is Utah's not really going to be using the tight ends in the traditional way that they have the last few years, and so when you look at that and you look at the current tight ends on the roster, they kept the guy that should have the biggest impact, Landon King. I know it felt like a mystery for the longest time that, he wasn't getting a lot of run this year, but a lot of it was he put on a little extra weight in the off season that kind of, took him some time to adjust. Right. And so he really broke out at the end there. And yeah, so Carson will be a loss. He's going to be a nice add for BYU. If it would have been Utah's old system, I almost wonder if Carson would have stayed and he could have thrived off it. But it's probably a better situation for him because of this offense. Outside of that, I mean, Deshaun Stanley, that's an interesting one, right? Because loads of potential, just hasn't really been able to show it because he didn't have Cam tossing him the ball. Isaac with his wheel routes, swing passes and everything just wasn't working. He wasn't connecting with him, and so he didn't have the big year that it looked like he was going to start having. And I'm really kind of curious on that one to see where that one can kind of trend and evolve, because you go look at his social media, it doesn't look like he's getting a lot of interest, and that guy is extremely talented. Cam Calhoun was a gigantic loss, but at the same time too, you got to start looking at the money, right? I mean, he has agreed to his NIL deal with Utah. Another team came in and, I wouldn't say a team, but maybe like a handler, right? And came in saying like, hey, I can get you this. Next thing you know, it's more money. He's going to Utah about it. There's certain caps that teams have to go by, within their NIL stuff, which is a weird like thing to dive into, right? And that just it pretty much priced Utah out for that position group with him on that, and there was nothing you could really do, And so he's going to be a big blow. I don't really see the guys that they've brought in really replacing him just yet. There's the potential there, but I just it's tough. It's tough to see a proven guy go out like that, right? Today they got a really nice commitment from Joe Williams, wide receiver from Tulsa. He was an athlete coming out of high school, played his freshman year this last year, and absolutely dominated, high yards per catch. He's going to be a stud to pay attention to. I mean, he was just at USC a few days ago. Outside of that, I really feel like a lot of the stuff is them just adding depth and maybe some intriguing guys that just haven't really popped yet. There's Creed Whitmore, that's another wide receiver, but at the same time too, he didn't get a lot of run at Mississippi State, so you hope it changes scenery helps. Really the big one that everybody's going to want to be focusing on in this next little bit is Wayshawn Parker. one of the absolute top running backs in the portal. He was at Washington State, and just total stuff. You watch this kid play. He runs like a Utah running back. And Mark Atawaya coming over from Wazoo to Utah. That's a plus for him being his running back coach. It was Utah, UCLA, USC, and Arizona for a bit, and then he canceled 2 of those trips and is down to Utah and Arizona. And it's looking good for Utah, So if they can add him with the type of offense that Beck's bringing in, that's going to be potent, putting alongside Dan Pierre and a healthy Mike Mitchell. So some positive stuff. We'll see how it keeps trending. But it's been unique this year with the transfer portal. I feel like the last 2 years, there's been a lot more higher value guys in it. And a lot of that just more has to do because, like the COVID year effects with the seniors and everything, and those guys having the extended eligibility.
Alex Markham, he is our Utes Insider, brought to you by Metro Elevator, Utah's trusted vertical transportation specialist. Follow him on Twitter at @AMarkhamRivals. Always appreciate your time, Alex. Enjoy the rest of your week.
You as well.
There you
Take
go,
care, bro.
Alex Markham. There you go. Good stuff from him as per usual. Yeah, I mean, I think more positive than negative as you take a look of, what's gone out and what's come in for the Utes to get you excited for next year. And we definitely forget about this year. I don't think anybody's going to celebrate New Year's Eve more than Coach Whittingham. Got to put 2024 behind us for sure. Again, come on down and see me. I am at the Beer Bar. The food is made in-house from scratch, including dressings and sauces. Our fries are hand-cut from famous Idaho spuds, and our brats and burgers are always fresh. Come down and enjoy. We are in the heart of downtown, 161 East, 200 South. Again, over 100 beers with 30 on tap. And we have the amazing burger, brats, fries, salads, soups, all that good stuff. Come on down and see me. They're opening up at about my favorite number, 11 minutes. Coming up next, time for the 5th. Fun in the 40s. This will be fun in the 50s. Let's go around the wacky world of sports as we close out hour number 1, shall we? You're listening to the Sean O'Connell Show. His guy, Zakariah, holding it down. Right here, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. 161 East, 200 South, opening up in about 5 minutes. We got all the best food and beverages that you could possibly want. And, of course, we have Cotton Bottom's garlic burger that we are serving here. Same owners, but we brought the goodness over here, so come enjoy that. Come see me. Take a selfie. And also, I think we're giving away tickets. I got to check with the head lady in charge, but I'm pretty sure we're giving away Running Utes tickets. So come on down, eat, drink, and be merry. Coming up, top of the hour, Utah great Scott Mitchell will join the program. We'll ask him about the transfers in Utah versus BYU, the guys that are coming in, the guys that are leaving, and I also like picking his brain. He had I believe, over a decade. Z-Rob, you can look that up for me. I've looked it up before. I think it's over a decade in the NFL, and the different offensive coordinators that he had. He's talked about Don Shula and how there's really there's not the offensive playbooks that you see are not as different as you may think. He basically said they just call them something different.
Yeah, and
so we'll do all that.
And it's like look at Bo Nix in Denver right now, and the playbook that Oregon had.
Why do you always bring up the Broncos?
Because,
you always find a way to bring up the Broncos.
Because here, listen. This is not being a fan, but
okay,
break
it down.
We see a similar playbook to Sean Payton's.
Mm-hmm.
Check downs. We saw a lot of that in Oregon as well, but we also saw some deep balls with Oregon when he was still at Oregon. Okay. So that's him being prepared for an NFL playbook. Dan Lanning has a really good playbook designed, and we see Dylan Gabriel balling out this year, getting him NFL ready.
Okay, so what exactly was your point, Z-Rob?
The point is that college playbooks and NFL playbooks, like as you said, are similar, but just called differently. And I think that's what helps college quarterbacks in general get prepared for the NFL. And yeah, we might see some busts and stuff, but it still helps you in some way. That was the thing I was trying to say. That was the example I was trying to give. I'm not trying
Fair enough.
Trying to give my Broncos some hype, but
fair enough. All right. It is the Sean O'Connell Show. His guy Zakariah hold it down, ESPN 792.1 FM. You can always text in or call in. Text or call your thoughts on anything that I've been bringing up, whether you agree with me or you disagree with me. I don't care. Bring it on. 877-353-0700. Vote on the poll that we put up. We're just with BYU landing a commitment from Utah transfer Carson Ryan. We thought, which is the most shocking person to make the move from BYU to Utah or vice versa? You can go vote on that poll. Kyle Whittingham, Kalani Sitake, Jay Hill, or other. If you choose other, please tell us who you think. But let us waste no more time than to get to the fifth. That's where we go around the wacky world of sports. And the fifth is part of the Hot Lunch, which is brought to you by Beer Bar, which is where I'm at. They've got delicious burgers, brats, fries, soups, and homemade sourdough bread, plus over 100 beers on tap, located 161 South 200 East, right in the heart of downtown Salt Lake City. That's Beer Bar. All right, time for the fifth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, fifth. And we're going to start here. Cody Bellinger is now a New York Yankee. Now, you would wonder, Zakariah, why is that something that you would bring up in the fifth, fun in the 50s, fun in the 40s? Why would you bring that up? Well, he happens to be married to a model. Her name is Chase Carter. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Z-Rob, but I don't know that I've ever met a woman named Chase. I've met men named Chase, but is that a name that can go both genders? Apparently. Have you ever heard of a woman named Chase, Z-Rob?
I think I have, actually.
Really?
I think so.
I had a couple of teammates named Chase, but I can't think of a woman that's named Chase.
I did too.
And who knows if it's even her real name, because a lot of people use fake names. For instance, and I'll let all the listeners know this right now because I'm an open book, my government name is not Zakariah. That's my radio name. It's got a little bit more flavor than Zachary, which is actually my real name. And so models and artists and singers and all that stuff, it's not really actually their real name. So I don't know if Chase Carter's her real name. But Cody Bellinger is married to Chase Carter. So you're asking me, why does that matter? Well, she used to date Giancarlo Stanton, who happens to be Bellinger's new teammate on the Bronx Bombers. Now, look, it's been a lot of years since Giancarlo Stanton and Chase Carter dated, and Bellinger is now married to Chase, and they have kids. But will it be awkward? That's the question I have. You walk into the locker room, not awkward for Giancarlo, unless he got his heart broken and he still wants to be with her. Then it would be awkward. I'm guessing, I don't mean to assume anything. This is allegedly. We need to get a liner for me, Z-Rob, where anytime I say something reckless speculation, we need a liner to play before that so that I don't get in trouble. This is all allegedly. I'm not reporting anything. I have no facts on this. But I'm guessing Giancarlo Stanton, a young, very tall and attractive man living in New York, probably isn't spending many hours thinking about his ex. But for Cody, now he's married to her and he's walking into a locker room that he knows with another guy who he knows has been with his wife. Might be awkward for him. Just saying. Maybe not, but just saying. Okay, now we go to another instance. Travis Hunter, who is projected to probably go number 1 in the NFL draft, a guy that just won the Heisman. He can play both sides of the ball, wide receiver and defensive back. Just won the Heisman, the most prestigious award you can get in college football. And a lot of people are crushing him on social media because his wife/fiance/girlfriend, whatever, not wife yet, they're not married, but I believe they're engaged. She's been caught on camera numerous times, not exactly giving the kind of support you would expect from a significant other. And so there was a time where when he won the Heisman, she didn't stand up. Everybody else that was there for him stood up and clapped. She did not. There's an incident where after a game, he goes into the stands and she starts yelling at him about something. There's another instance. I don't know, whatever. You can look it up if you want to go down that rabbit hole. Just know that there's been numerous things caught on camera where she doesn't seem like the most supportive fiance. Well, Travis Hunter tells you right here in this clip to take all of that and stuff it where the sun don't shine.
You ain't never had no girl. So why y'all talking about me? Find something else to talk about. You talk about my girl. Go talk about your girl. Go find a girl. Go find a life. Stop worrying about what I got going on. I know what I got. I know my girl. My girl been with me for 5 years. Y'all are just not starting to talk about me and just not starting to be with me. Like, come on, man. Y'all go do something else with y'all life. Clickbait pages, y'all better stop. I'm telling y'all. Y'all, if something bad gonna happen to y'all, y'all keep doing that. Y'all better stop that. I ain't playing. Y'all better stop. All the clickbaiting pages.
Now, a little bit of a veiled threat there at the end. Something bad's going to happen. I hope he's talking more about karma and not that he's actually going to do something to these websites and these magazines that are, coming out and reporting all this stuff. But I feel him. Honestly, leave that man alone. You know what I mean? He knows what he has. That woman has been with him for 5 years. Whatever issues they may have or whatever reasons why she hasn't come off as supportive is his business and her business and them together and that alone. Everybody else shouldn't be commenting on it. So I was playing this more not to add on to all the scrutiny and all the coverage that they have gotten, but to kind of support Travis and saying, leave them alone. Stay out of their business. That's all. All right. So that's fun in the 50s. Coming up, bottom of the hour, Scott Mitchell, former great Utah Ute, long career in the NFL. Let's talk to him about all these changes, how he's feeling about, again, a Ute going to BYU. Not the best look for Utah, but again, the system's going to be totally different. So we'll talk to him about that and much, much more. Again, I am down here at Beer Bar. We are opening up right now. I believe it's 12:04. So we should be good to go. I'm down here at 161 East, 200 South. Come say hello. Come eat, drink, and be merry. Don't forget, vote on the polls at ESPN 700, at Zach Sports, ZAK Sports. I just retweeted the poll. And then, of course, you can text in 877-353-0700. Scott Mitchell coming up next here on the Sean O'Connell Show. His guy Zakariah holding it down. ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. I'm at 11 Zach 11 ZAK 11. Check me out on Instagram Live. I got my old school headset on with the microphone attached to it, and we are here at Beer Bar. Be sure to stop by here. Come see me for your VIP passes to ESPN's Ultimate Tailgate Experience. Delicious food from Wingers, our local partners with Clearwater Distilling and Porter's pregame show. 2 per person while supplies last. Again, right in the heart of downtown, 161 East, 200 South, over 100 beers with 30 on tap. And there's tons of amazing burgers and brats, fries, salads, soups, sourdough bread, all that good stuff. Beer Bar, Salt Lake City. Come see me. And that will lead us into our next guest, the one, the only, Scott Mitchell. He joins me now on the program. Scotty, how are you, sir?
Doing great. Yeah, things haven't changed much from the last time we talked, so just keep it rolling, buddy.
Yeah, absolutely. Hasn't been that long. Have you ever been to Beer Bar, Scott?
I have, yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm going to have to – I can't really, mow down a meal in between commercial breaks, so I think I'm going to probably starve myself until 2 o'clock, and then I'm just going to go to town. But I'm looking forward to it. From everything that I've been reading, I haven't seen anything yet. They just opened, but it looks like I'll be eating well here after the show.
You should, yeah. It's great stuff.
Yeah, so let's start with what I started with at the top of the hour. The news came in, BYU landing Utah transfer Carson Ryan, the tight end. Not a huge deal, doesn't really register that high on the Richter scale, but just got me thinking about the transfers of people from BYU to Utah or vice versa. Kyle Whittingham, Kalani Sitake, Jay Hill. In your recruiting process, did you get offers from BYU? Was that a school that you thought about going to over Utah?
You don't know much about my history, do you? So
I guess not. I thought I did.
County. No, I grew up 10 minutes from BYU. I'm related to Lavelle Edwards. I was his top recruit when I came out of high school. I had deep ties. There was absolutely no reason whatsoever in the world why I wouldn't go to BYU. He came to my house December 1st, 1985. You're the first recruit that I've gone to their home. You're my number one priority. And I thought my whole life I was going to go to BYU, and I was recruited by a bunch of other schools. And, when you're growing up and you're a fan, it's one thing, but all of a sudden when it becomes real, you start kind of listening to all the people that, so I went on trips to Stanford. I was recruited by UCLA, Colorado, believe it or not, at the time, Utah, BYU. And so me going to BYU was a shock of the century, actually, at the time. And you
mean not going to BYU?
Yeah, not going to BYU. Yeah, definitely.
And what was the reason?
So I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, active my whole life. And I did what good Mormon kids do. I prayed about it. And in the middle of my prayer, I got this just really clear impression that I should go to the University of Utah. And that's kind of how it happened.
Huh. Interesting.
It took Lavelle years before he forgave me for not going to BYU. But, yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I thought I had done solid research on you, Scott, but I didn't know that. Okay. Well, look, let's go.
New every time you talk to me, buddy.
Yes, this is true. This is true. Okay, so I think this news has broke since the last time that we spoke, not to rhyme like Dr. Seuss, but were you as shocked as I was to see Isaac Wilson return to Utah? I figured with the complete upheaval of the offensive side of the ball and Jason Beck coming in that he entered the portal and that he was going to be leaving Utah, but he comes back, as he says, after a long meeting with Mr. Beck, the new offensive coordinator. So what did you make of the news of Isaac returning to the Utes?
It kind of tells you a little bit about who he is as a person, with the world and the trend to leave and instant gratification. And, to me, it's a very mature thing, and I believe it's the right thing. I know it's just so easy, and all these quarterbacks expect to, play right now. And there's something about growing up, there's something about having to fight through things and having to stick things out that really prepares you. When you play football, it's tough, and you get in tough situations. And as you go through your career, do you have that fortitude to kind of stick with something and to fight through it? And Isaac's a kid who, comes from a family. His older brother, he's always had success. Won state championship at Corner Canyon, threw for 1,000,000 yards. And so I don't know how much adversity he's really faced in his life in football, and he kind of went through some tough stuff this year. And to stick around is, I think, a real sign of maturity, and I think a wise thing. I think the book's still out on who he is and what he can become, but I think it was an 18. And the reality is, I know everyone's freaking out about the transfer portal and, oh man, this thing's ruining college football and it's this and that and whatever. And I don't know that I agree with that. And I think it's going to create more balance of power around the country. I think you're going to get players kind of in better situations for themselves, and quite frankly, even teams. You can turn things around in a quick hurry, being able to go out and get players. So it's just a different way of creating college football teams, but I still think college football will be really good. The expanded playoffs, I think about this weekend and what we're in store for as far as games go. I mean, you have to be excited about these matchups, these bowl games, this intrigue. We're in the middle of December, and this thing's going to go into the middle of January. And if you're a football fan and you want to watch these football games, you're not seeing these players leave or sit out in bowl games, which started to become a trend. I don't necessarily think where college football is headed is completely bad. Now they got to get a control on some of the timing of the transfer portal. They got to get a control on how they're able to spend money, which I think I think it'll work itself out over time. But I'm excited about what Utah's doing, where it's headed, and I gained a lot of respect for Isaac Wilson to come back.
One of the best to ever do it at the University of Utah, Scott Mitchell, and now you hear him broadcasting for the Utes as well. Joining me here on the Sean O'Connell Show, his guy, Zakariah, holding it down on ESPN 700. And Scott is brought to you by Larry H. Miller Chevrolet Murray. Get Chevy ready this month with better than employee pricing and Solitude season passes with every new vehicle purchase online at LarryHMillerChevrolet.com. Yeah, I agree with you. I'm excited about all these additions. I think the fact that many people thought Isaac Wilson was gone, and I love the fact that it came on the heels of a conversation with the offensive coordinator. I'm curious about this, Scott. It seems, and I think we talked about this before, where I kind of tipped my cap and sort of saluted Coach Witt for kind of deviating from what was his norm for so long and being able to accept a totally different offensive identity. But I wonder, because there are some things that are left to be desired with Devin Dampier coming in terms of his quarterback, in terms of his wide receiver to interception ratio and also his completion percentage. Do you think that Coach Witt is going to be completely hands-off with the offense now? Because I do know he made a point to say in the past that while he's a defensive side of the ball guy, he also was in on the rooms for the offense. So do you think he's going to be totally hands-off now?
I don't know that any head coach is totally hands-off. I think you evolve. I think you have to adapt to and understand where the game of football is. And the football in college right now is so much about the quarterback. And I think Utah learned a painful lesson from that, and that quarterback has such an impact on the outcome of games, more than any other position on the field. So you've got to create an environment for that quarterback to flourish, and whatever that might be. And I think that's something that Coach Whittingham has certainly kind of evolved to. when Utah really turned its program around, it became a tough, physical, defensive-minded team first, take care of the football on offense, keep games close, have a chance to win because you couldn't get the talent. You were good up front. You could handle other teams, but you didn't quite have the talent to just kind of open it up and just be explosive. And I think and it bode well. You know, Stanford did it with a limited ability to recruit at Stanford. It's hard to recruit there. They showed that they could win in the Pac-12, win consistently, and Utah kind of had that similar model. And now I think it's in the process of evolving. If one thing, Coach Whittingham is super competitive, and he's a sharp guy. He realizes that you can't just stick your head in the stand and do the same thing all the time and expect to win, just with the evolution of how things are playing out. And so I don't see him. I don't see him just totally giving it up. But I also think it's more of an evolution and maybe just kind of taking his hands away from it just a little bit.
Now, I'm saying this as a complete novice, but I feel like there is a heavy influence on possible college recruits, especially now where there's so much technology and basically kids can watch anything they want at any time. And with Utah being such, so down in the dumps this year, the 7-game losing streak, and with BYU with a couple of, projected models early on when the college football playoff committee was meeting, having BYU up there. Do you think that there's going to be, because so far it does not seem like it had a huge effect in terms of the players that have come in for Utah, and I believe Carson Ryan is the first player to actually go into BYU. So does that have an effect on kids in terms of the recruiting process as a guy who went through it himself?
You want to win as a player, and I think if you really pay attention in the Pac or the Big 12 in general, it's a crazy conference. Like it's always a surprise. The teams you kind of expect to be there typically aren't, and someone comes out of the blue, or multiple teams come out of the blue and show up. I don't think anyone saw Arizona State playing in the conference championship. I don't think people thought Colorado would be up there. I don't think people thought BYU would be up there, and I think people thought Kansas State, and they thought Utah, and they thought Oklahoma State, and Utah and Oklahoma State were kind of at the bottom of the conference, and to me, the way I've viewed it and seen it and watched it, is the conference is pretty balanced, especially with the exit of Texas and Oklahoma. So it's kind of anyone's game at any year. And usually recruits will go places because I don't know that it's so much what they've done in the past or that they're going to win, because I think recruits go, well, we're going to win because I'm here. So I don't think winning is the top priority. I think a lot of it is the relationship you have with the coach that recruits you, and I think is this a place that can get me to the next level? I think that's always on a recruit's mind. Every recruit thinks they're going to play in the NFL, and they want to go somewhere where they feel that can be highlighted. You look at Utah with Dalton Kincaid going to the NFL, first-round draft choice, a tight end who wasn't highly recruited, really developed and had, really got a great opportunity at Utah to showcase who he was. And, so then all of a sudden Utah's tight end room is loaded. and then the tight ends just totally disappear from the offense. And, so I think it's kind of hard. And for some of these guys who didn't really get the same look they got last year, kind of going somewhere else. As far as like guys leaving Utah to go to BYU or vice versa, I think there's a psychological part to it. Like, I think from the fan base, it's like, oh man, we stole one of their guys, kind of thing. And it's happened both ways. And guys have gone on and some guys have had really good success. Francis Bernard was a linebacker who was at BYU and came to Utah and had a great experience at Utah. And it's flipped the other way. It's Samson Nakua Puka's brother.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he was at Utah, and then he went to BYU and had a really nice time there. And you know, so it's kind of gone back and forth. It's good for the rivalry, but I don't know that at the end of the day it's going to destroy a program or really make the other program. I think it has some psychological impact, certainly a lot of impact with the fans, but at the end of the day, I think both of these programs are headed in a good direction, which is what you really want.
Going to get you out of here on a non-football related question. As you know, that's I think yours and mine favorite parts of any interviews that we do. I mean, you got to get the football in, but got to ask you a little bit about ice fishing. Now, I've wet my beak in terms of fishing. I've been doing it for about 14 years since my pops passed out in Michigan. We just catch little bluegill. I did go on some big Lake Michigan trips and caught some big fish, but generally speaking, I just catch little bluegill. But the one thing I haven't done, Scotty, is ice fish. Now, have you done it?
Okay.
And is it possible for me to do it before I leave? How far would I have to go to ice fish?
I don't know. I don't know where the ice levels are. There might be some places ice fishing can be phenomenal. Ice fishing is more of an experience. You mentioned Michigan.
Have you done it?
Oh yeah, a million times.
Okay.
So people go out on the Great Lakes to ice fish, and they'll go out on snowmobiles, and they'll get out on you get big winds. They'll come along, and they'll actually break off chunks of ice, and people will be stuck on an ice island. They have to get rescued by the Coast Guard. Coast Guard doesn't rescue snowmobiles. So the snowmobile sits on the ice till the ice melts, and then the snowmobile falls down into the Great Lake. So they fine them for polluting the lake. They have to pay a bunch of money to go salvage the snowmobile, and the Coast Guard charges them for picking them up. So you can get an expensive bill if you go fishing on the Great Lake. Like it can be in the neighborhood of $20,000 in fines.
Wow!
So now people go on airboats. So they'll go on airboats. That way they don't get stuck. But ice fishing's a ball. It's unbelievable.
All right, yeah, I got to do it. I got to cross it off my bucket list. Well, appreciate your time, Scotty. Enjoy the rest of your week. Hopefully, maybe we can meet up before I leave. I'm taking off on Friday.
All right, sounds good.
All right, there you go. Scott Mitchell, and that was your Big 12 at noon, brought to you by Mountain Land Supply. Visit them online at mountainlandsupply.com. And again, I am over here at Beer Bar. I've been told that we're going to be getting a crowd for Arsenal FC against Crystal Palace. Are you guys here for Arsenal over there? Yes, they are. They are nodding their head. They have a couple of adult beverages in front of them. Soccer is like year-round. There's like 9,000 leagues, but apparently this is a big game. Arsenal is third place. Your Arsenal is? Is that what I'm reading correct in the Premier League?
Yeah, I'm your soccer guy right here.
Okay, my soccer guy Z-Rob. Who's ahead of Arsenal FC?
So it's Chelsea and Liverpool right now, but this is the Carabao Cup.
Chelsea and Liverpool,
which is just basically the English Cup.
English Cup, okay.
So each country each league plays a in-country cup. You know, in La Liga, where Real Madrid, Barcelona, all those people are. Super Cup.
Spain, Italy, England.
Copa del Rey. But in the Premier League, Chelsea's having a really great year this year. I mean, they kind of went from bottom to top this year. They're second place in the table right now. And Liverpool dropped points, but they're still first. And Arsenal dropped points this last weekend as well. But this is a big game.
Deal.
It's a big game.
They're gonna. It's not called a kickoff. What do you call it when a soccer game starts? They're gonna drop the ball. They're gonna. I know they call it the pitch instead of the field.
Yep.
Anyways, it's gonna start here in a couple of minutes. So come on down if you want to watch Arsenal. I was wondering when I got here, Z-Rob, I'm like, where are the TVs? And then I found out what they do is they use projector screens.
Really?
So they got 4 big screens, and it's going to be all soccer right now because I don't think any other sports are going on. But come on down and visit me. Come say hello. I am at Beer Bar right downtown Salt Lake, 161 East, 200 South. Got tons of amazing drinks, tons of amazing food. And, of course, the big news, which I think I'm going to have, the famous Cotton Bottom Garlic Burger. Cotton Bottom, another establishment owned by the same people over here at Beer Bar. You'll have that for your eating pleasure Tons of soups, salads, fries, all that good stuff. Brats to die for. And also, got to try, maybe I'll try the new gyro. Maybe. We'll see.
The Euro?
And, of course, if you're in the mood for breakfast, if you're one of those people that has breakfast for lunch, they're going to have breakfast sandwiches all day. So come on down and see me. Coming up, bottom of the hour, let's talk some puck. I will be in the building. I don't know where to tell you where to see me, but I am going to see the Utah Hockey Club, who is in fuego, if you will, winning 4 of their last 5. They play Canucks, the Canucks tonight at 8 o'clock. I will be there. I don't know if I'll be there for the whole game. I got a show tomorrow, too, you know. I got a life to live out here in these streets. But I will definitely be there probably for most of the game. We'll see. But let's talk some Utah Hockey Club with Tom Callahan, co-host of the Locked on Utah Hockey Club podcast. What does he make of this recent streak? Big win in Colorado, big game tonight. We'll talk about that and much, much more. You're listening to the Sean O'Connell Show. Zakariah holding it down right here, ESPN 700. see me, won't you? Right here, downtown Salt Lake City, Utah. We got the soccer game about to commence. We got people sitting down enjoying food and some brewskis. Arsenal is about to start or has already started. It's already 1-0? Jeez, that was quick. There's usually not a lot of scoring. 3 minutes into the game, it's already 1-0. Arsenal's down, which I don't think is making the patrons over here who are wearing Arsenal red very happy. But we'll be pulling for Arsenal to come back and tie that thing up. Anyways, come on down. Come say hello to me. Enjoy food. Enjoy beverages, all that good stuff. Coming up in about 15 minutes. Fun in the 40s, fun in the 50s. We go around the wacky world of sports because athletes, coaches, owners, all that good stuff, GMs, they never cease to provide content for my fun in the 40s. But right now, it's time to talk a little hockey, as I will be in the building tonight. If you see me, I'll be the tall guy that looks like he's a fish out of water. But I will be witnessing and watching my first game, my first Utah hockey. Well, obviously, because this is their inaugural year, but they'll be playing the Canucks tonight, 8 p.m. And right now, it's a pleasure to be joined by Tom Callahan, co-host of the Locked On Utah Hockey Club podcast. Tom, how are you, sir?
I am doing awesome, and you might want to, unless you already have your tickets, you might want to reach out because I happen to see that Ryan Smith is giving away tickets to tonight's game over there on Twitter. So,
interesting. Well, I mean, he's probably not going to respond to me, and he's probably getting tons of requests. So unless you have the hookup, Tom, I'm just going to stick with what I got. OC has a partial season ticket plan for the Utah Hockey Club, and so I wasn't able to go last week, but he did have them for tonight's game. So I don't know how good his seats are, but certainly if you can get me on the glass or something, or you got hookup, I am not too proud to accept any freebies.
I haven't amped up my juice to that level yet, but when I do, I will let you know.
I appreciate that. All right, let's get to the squad or the club. They've won 4 of 5, Tom. Obviously, last game, a win over the Sharks. Not as impressive as the 4-1 win at the Avalanche. What have you made from this team over the past 5 games? Are they as good as they've been over the past 5 games, or a little bit closer to how they've been throughout the entire year?
Well, you know what? It's an impressive stretch of 5 games because they are turning into a road dynamo, first of all, which is pretty impressive and not so easy to do. Winning on the road is tough. It requires a lot of grit, a lot of character, and they've been showing that. The special teams is awake now, which it hasn't been for most of the year. Power plays functioning, and actually I thought the win over the Sharks was even a little more impressive because they could have folded the tent in that game a couple times, and they didn't. And to me, there's that resiliency, there's that internal belief in themselves that they're able to win these games now. And I don't know if that was there right away, which, look, I think that's natural and normal when you have as much change in the locker room as they had over the summer, especially with the relocation. But, I mean, I'm just talking about players and chemistry and coming together. You tack that on with all the injuries, 4 starting defensemen out of the lineup right now. That's insane. Yet somehow they're 4-0-1 in the last 5. So I actually think they're starting to put it together a little bit here. They're taking that underdog mentality of we're not supposed to be doing well right now because reasons, and saying, you know what, we're going to ignore all that and we're going to go out there, play hockey, and win some games.
Look, I am all for any team finding a way to have a chip on their shoulder, but Tom, you know hockey up and down and through. This is not your prototypical we're not supposed to be here, bad news bears, mighty ducks sort of situation in hockey, and especially in this one where essentially you were moving them from Arizona. It's not your typical expansion team or expansion situation, but I'm sure that's something that they still use as fuel to the fire, right?
Well, absolutely. And you know what? The other thing, too, is the honeymoon period of coming to Utah, which is you hear everybody who's attached to this organization talking about how awesome the people have been. And, even today, Andre Tourney brought it up after morning skate, talking about just what it's been like here. If you're wearing a logo out in public, people come up to you and they say, oh, Utah Hockey Club, either they're new to the sport and they're interested in it because there is a buzz created right now, or they might be longtime diehard hockey fans who are thrilled to have the NHL. But it's been great. What hasn't followed yet is winning on home ice. They're a little below 500 on home ice. I think that as they get more and more used to their own building, that's going to improve, because as nice as it is to sleep in your own bed at night, you're still trying to figure out the nooks and crannies of your building. And once they get that nailed down, and especially with this recent resurgence, like I say, from the special teams, I think that's going a long way towards making them a better team at home. So, yeah, I think there is a lot to it. And there's a lot of built-in excuses if you want to reach for them, but I don't see them doing that.
Speaking with Tom Callahan, co-host of the Locked On Utah Hockey Club podcast. Follow him on Twitter at Callahan on air right here, the Sean O'Connell Show. His guy Zakariah holding it down right here, ESPN 700. Tom, what have you made from how the city has embraced having hockey for the first time? This is a bubbling, growing city that has, a soccer team now, a hockey team now. Obviously, the Jazz have been here for a while. They're working on a baseball team. Who knows if the NFL will ever come here? But how do you feel about how you've seen the Salt Lake community sort of embrace it? You mentioned that the home ice advantage has not necessarily been there. Now, that's probably on the players, not the fans. But what have you seen just from the people around Salt Lake and how they're embracing having a hockey team?
Well, and an important distinction, the first time they've had NHL hockey, obviously they've had the Olympics and minor league hockey at various levels dating back for decades now.
Yep.
So there was a base here already of folks who, and obviously it's a winter sports community, right? So, I mean, folks love their winter sports. I think it was easy for them to glom onto it. But, it's just been really cool, the excitement and enthusiasm of a team coming into a new city. And again, you go back to just the crazy whirlwind way they were brought to Salt Lake. I mean, this is it's such a crazy story, but I guess the upside of that was because you had to do it so fast, it really did build up this community energy. And folks are so excited about it. They love talking about it right now. And kudos to Ryan Smith and his ownership group, because I think they've gone about presenting this team the right way. I think they have the right people in place. Bill Armstrong is a good leadership figure, face of the franchise. Andre Tourney is a good front-facing face of the franchise. They're well-spoken. That helps. And then, of course, having some success out of the gate early, like seeing Dylan Gunther go on this wild streak, and then seeing, when the team started great, even on that road trip, that helps the buzz continue. And now everybody's waiting to see what the real name of the franchise is going to be. And there's all these little peaks of excitement, and I think those bumps are just enough to keep the hook set in everybody's mouth.
I don't know about you, Tom, but I love hyperbole. I love cliches, and the cliche that I'm going to use here is a measuring stick game. I think it was when they went to Colorado, who's 18-15, 36 points, 3 ahead of Utah, and now Vancouver, who's 16-9, 37 points. Is this another measuring stick game for you, Tom? Are you going to be looking at this game a little bit closer than you would, say, a Sharks game, or are they all the same to you?
Well, absolutely they're not. There's 5 games in the NHL tonight. 4 of them matter and are fantastic matchups. This is one of them. Right now, Vancouver is 2 points in front of Utah in the standings. If Utah wins this game, they pull level, and it would, of course, depending on the other results tonight, potentially move Utah back into a playoff spot, or at least a tie for the final playoff spot. So, yes, this is an important game, because the point Utah Hockey Club is at in their evolution towards being a cup contender is not only beating the teams below you in the standings that you're supposed to beat, but now beating the teams around you on a regular basis that put you into the playoffs. And Vancouver is one of those. There's a lot going well for the Canucks. They're really good on the road this year. They just got their stud goaltender back in Thatcher Demko. Hopefully he's still a little rusty, but this is a really, really good Canucks hockey team, and you have to catch these guys while you can. Take advantage of the fact that you are playing at home and try to turn that around, but you couldn't put a better game on the slate right now in the middle of December for these guys. This is a tremendous litmus test.
I'll get you out of here on this, Tom. And look, we'll put allegedly before this. We will put this as speculation before this. You don't have to put your name or anything on the record. But from what you've gathered from GM Bill Armstrong, who I had the pleasure of speaking with, and, you know, I loved one of his quotes. I wanted to cut it up. He basically said, you know, we're going to punch you in the face. That's kind of the mentality that he wants to have. But is this a sort of wait and see as the trade deadline approaches in terms of whether or not they're buyers or sellers, and do you think that their record is going to have a lot to do with that?
So I'm going to say right now, as it looks, even if they are in the playoff contention, they're not buyers. I believe buying in the NHL is reserved for teams that legitimately believe they have a shot at the Stanley Cup. I think they will be in the traditional role of a seller because of two factors. Number one, because of all these defensive injuries that they have and guys that'll be out till March in some cases, they've stockpiled other defensemen. They have very valuable pieces, some of them on one-year deals, who could be flipped for future assets or current assets or draft picks. They have a lot of capital, especially defensively, which is always at a premium at the trade deadline. The other thing they have is cap space. This team has just been smart about it. They didn't go out and just blow everything in free agency this summer. They retained about $9 million heading into the summer, and the cap will go up. And some teams are still going to need that cap space. So it leaves them room to maneuver and get better at the deadline. So I think that they'll make smart trades. They're not going to make a trade that's going to be, you know, oh, they brought in Connor McDavid, but they will make moves where you may see them send out a few players but get better organizationally. So traditionally, that brands them a seller, but it's really all about internal improvement.
Tom Callahan, co-host of the Locked On Utah Hockey Club podcast. Follow him on Twitter at Callahan on Air. Tom, thank you so much for your time. Enjoy the rest of your week.
All right, thanks for having me.
There you go, Tom Callahan. And, again, I will be in the building tonight. Looking forward to that. Little hockey club, Canucks action. And if you're going to the game and you're listening to the sound of my voice, bundle up. It is cold when you go to a hockey rink. I learned that the hard way one time and never made that mistake again. But I can't wait. Hockey is it's great on television, but it is phenomenal in person. Actually had the pleasure of going to an outside game at Levi Stadium. I think it was Sharks Bruins, I want to say. Maybe Sharks Penguins. I don't know. I'd have to look it up. But it was great outside. Just incredible. Those guys, it's already cold. They're already on ice. Now let's put them outside in, you know, cold, windy, foggy, well, Santa Clara, not San Francisco. Alrighty, I want to remind you that Kraftwerk is coming to the Union Event Center on 4/16. That's April 16th of next year. Listen all week to The Drive with Spence Checketts for your chance to win tickets. Coming up next, Fun in the 50s. Fifth, we go around the wacky world of sports. Did you see the Michigan State game last night? Maybe you did not, but it was a sight to behold. Two coaches wearing horrible, ugly, hideous Christmas sweaters that matched. I think that's the first time you've ever seen that. And a reminder to come visit me down here at the beer bar. We are open. We're watching soccer. We're drinking brewskis. We're eating food. Come down and see me. I am right here in downtown Salt Lake City. 161 East, 200 South. We got beers. We got food, burgers, brats, fries, salads, soups, all that good stuff. Come on down and see me. It is the Sean O'Connell Show. Zakariah holding it down right here. ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. at Beer Bar in downtown Salt Lake City, Utah. Come down and see me. Have a beverage. Have some fantastic food. They got amazing burgers and brats, side of fries, amazing salads, soups, homemade sourdough bread. Don't miss all the action with the Utes, the NFL, MLB, hockey, Jazz, RSL. And did you know Beer Bar is the only bar in Salt Lake City that plays every MLS match with no blackouts? If you haven't been there, or it's been a while, I recommend you go check them out or visit again, and you'll have a ball. Come see me, and you'll have a ball with me. I'm getting off here in about an hour. I'm going to have some food, maybe a beverage, if the boss, Jackie, allows me. I'll be off the clock, technically. So hopefully she allows me to, and I'll try one of their many brewskis that are here on tap. But right now, it's time for the fifth. That's right. Fun in the 40s, in this instance, the 50s. It goes back and forth. Oh, and by the way, bottom of the hour, you're going to want to stay tuned. Eric Logenhagen, Fangraph's lead prospect analyst. He's got a great book out on future value, the battle for baseball's soul, and how teams will find the next superstar. Plus, apparently, he's got some ties to the Coyotes. And so he's going to, cry in his beer, if you will, about them coming to Utah. So, I'll give him some stuff. It'll be fun. We'll have a conversation with him. But right now, fun in the 50s. And I found this to be hilarious. College basketball, running Utes, big win. Again, another big win. Back-to-back big wins for them. College basketball, anytime I think of college basketball, and I don't know about you, maybe it's just me, but one of the first people that I think about is Tom Izzo, head coach for the Michigan State Spartans, as he has always overachieved there. Michigan State, not really a place that you associate with getting great players or high recruits or whatever, but he always seems to have them in the mix. Izzo's teams always play hard-nosed basketball. To give you a perfect example of a current NBA player that played for Izzo at Michigan State, Draymond Green. I think that the Warriors power forward sort of embodies the style of ball that Coach Izzo encourages his players to play. And they always get to the Elite Eight or the Final Four. I think he has two. I believe he won one with Cleaves. I'm forgetting his first name. Point guard. Martine Cleaves, maybe. And then I think he won a second one. So I think he has two. Could be wrong. But his teams are always very competitive. But this is fun in the 40s, so I'm not going to hit you over the head with stats and record books and stuff like that. The reason why I bring up Izzo and Michigan State is that Izzo is good friends with Oakland's coach, Greg Campe. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Could be Camp, could be Campy. But I'm going to go with Campe. And I figured when I see Oakland, I always assume California, Northern California, the city right across the bridge from San Francisco that used to be home of the Warriors. They're now in San Francisco. Used to be home of the Raiders. They're now in Vegas. And used to be home of the A's, who are going to be playing in Sacramento, the state's capital, about an hour and a half north, and then they're moving to Vegas themselves. So they went from having three major professional teams to having zero. But when I hear Oakland, that's what I associate it with. I'm a Berkeley boy, and that's the city right next to it, but this Oakland happens to be in Michigan. I didn't realize that there was an Oakland in Michigan. But anyways, Michigan State's Tom Izzo played Oakland's Greg Campe in Detroit at Little Caesars Arena on Tuesday. Now, you might say, who cares, right? Campe coached at Oakland, Michigan since 1984. That means 40 years. You may remember him as a beloved character from the 2024 NCAA men's basketball tournament. The program upset number 3 Kentucky during the first round of March Madness. But last night, they had matching horrible Christmas sweaters. You're going to have to look it up to see it. But it was not the first time that Coach Campe wore an ugly Christmas sweater. But it is certainly the first time that two coaches wore matching ugly Christmas sweaters. It was a sight to behold. They were out there coaching their kids with the passion that you would expect from two head basketball coaches, except they looked completely ridiculous because they were wearing ugly Christmas sweaters. And then they did something that you don't often see either, which is have a press conference together. Now, these two are close friends, but listen closely as you hear them kind of give each other stuff that, friends, that kind of banter is common amongst close friends. But here you go. Here they are in a joint press conference after the game.
Sit down, Camp. You bought the ugliest sweaters I've ever seen, and for the first time in your life, you paid for them, so I'm really happy about that.
The hard part was I didn't want to embarrass him, so I had to buy two, so that I didn't give him a shirt, one that was too small. I gave him a small and I gave him a double, and I knew he was going to wear the double, but.
That's what you get, man. What was the question? I'm going to interview you because some of these guys they're not that good anyway. So why do you think second half?
We wore out, and not having.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying we're going to win because of it, but our best rebounder and second best scorer got hurt. I know the Lions are struggling right now, but my God, how do you get hurt in warm up, right?
He comes up to me 2 minutes before the game. He says, "My kid, I don't even know his name. I just say number 12."
I don't know it either.
Okay.
Nava something.
He said he's hurt. I said, "What do you mean he's hurt? He ain't gonna play." I said, "What are you talking about?" But I'm happy for you. I think you're going to be really good, and I'll get out of your hair. And
One quick
thank
question.
you guys. Yes, sir.
Have you ever seen the coaches wear the exact same shirt at a game before? It's the first. It's the first right here at Little Caesars.
Me and Camp, boy, brothers for life.
And they think we're old, right? They think that we can't relate
We're
to these
hip.
young
We should have
kids,
come
right?
up with some real music playing and everything, huh?
You got glasses?
Hell yeah, I got glasses.
I'm supposed to, but I don't wear them.
You got Coke bottles that they put in there. Hey, thanks. I'll talk to you.
All right.
So it was camp. I should have went with my instinct. It was camp, not the 15 different versions that I said. But there was a couple of great digs in there. Number one, he said he finally paid for something, which I was delighted at. So that was definitely a shot, basically calling him cheap. And then Izzo says, I'll ask you the question since some of these guys don't really know what they're doing. That was a shot at the media. And then, of course, at the end there, Camp tried to give him, some stuff back by saying, "You wear glasses?" And then he goes, "I'm supposed to wear them, but I don't." So anyways, I thought that was a good clip, and it was definitely something to see. If you haven't looked it up, if you just Google image search Tom Izzo and Greg Camp, you'll find it. I think it was the Grinch on there. I know that they were green. A hideous green. But that was good stuff. All right, that'll do it for Fun in the 50s. Coming up, top of the hour, final hour of the program. Let's have a conversation with Eric Longenhagen, Fangraphs lead prospect analyst. He's got a book out, The Battle for Baseball's Soul, and how teams will find the next superstar. Let's talk to him about baseball free agency. The Yankees essentially lost out on Juan Soto to the Mets and then signed 3 guys for about the same amount. We'll see how he feels about that. He's an expert at crunching numbers and seeing the value for players. And so was Juan Soto, as coveted as he was by 4 or 5 teams, is he a guy that was worth it? Or were the Yankees better off losing out on Juan Soto and getting 3 players at 3 different positions for the same amount? We'll see what he says about that. Also, he was a Arizona Coyotes fan, Phoenix Coyotes fan, who are now, as you know, the Utah Hockey Club, basically made the transition over from Arizona to Utah. So we'll let him cry in his beer a little bit. So we will do all of that next. Don't forget, come down, visit me at the beer bar. We are here. Drinks are flowing. Food is getting made. I'm going to have I think I got to wait till 2. I'm not one of those guys that can eat in the commercial break, because I'll come back and I'll have food in my mouth and it won't be good radio. So I'm sacrificing for you listeners, you people out there, driving around, riding around, maybe listening on the ESPN 700 app. I'm going to make the sacrifice and not eat until 2 p.m. But anyways, we will speak with Eric Longenhagen coming up next. You're listening to the Sean O'Connell Show. His guy Zakariah holding it down right here, ESPN 700. Final show. Zakariah holding it down right here, ESPN 792.1 FM. Coming up, bottom of the hour, we will update the Twitter poll as we started the show with player or coach who was the most shocking person to make the move from BYU to Utah or vice versa. We will update that poll as your options are Kyle Whittingham, Kalani Sitake, Jay Hill, or other. If you choose other, please tell us who that other is. We will update that. Station handle at ESPN 700. I'm at Zach Sports, ZAK Sports, and I am live from Beer Bar. You got to come down and see me. It'd be a mistake not to. 161 East, 200 South. Over 100 beers with 30 on tap. Amazing burgers and brats, fries, salads, soups, anything you want. Taking a look at this menu. Think I'm going to have to go with the famous one just so I can say that I had it, the Cotton Bottom Burger, as the ownership is the same here at Beer Bar as it is with Cotton Bottom, and they brought the Cotton Bottom Burger over here. So I think I'm going to have that. But you can have pastrami sandwich, turkey and apple, sliced turkey, Swiss cheese, seasoned green apples with a honey balsamic glaze. Hello. French dip is always a great choice. And, of course, brats, all that good stuff. So come on down and see me. Again, 161 East, 200 South. And before we get to our next guest, my guy, the one, the only, he's an author. A great book that you know what? I think I want a free one. No, I'll buy it. But Eric Longenhagen will join us here in just a second. He's the Fangraphs lead prospect analyst. But in the meantime, as I always say, if you call in or you text in, if you call in, you'll get on the airwaves. If you text in, I will read your text, 877-353-0700. We go out to Frazier and Sandy. Frazier, what's going on?
Hey, man, I had a funny story for you. I always think about this when I see great Coach Tom Izzo out there. The guy's a witch, let's face it. Every year they're in at least the Elite Eight. I mean, seriously. So I ran the Jazz 100 Club for the late Larry Miller and the baseball suites. And about early in my career, I was there for about 8 years. And early in my career, around, I want to say 2006, 2007, they played BYU at the Delta Center. And Coach Izzo came up to speak. We had the alumni from Michigan State, had to be 250, 300 people on the top floor. And we were late getting the liquor cage up. And so the beer and everything was already up there. But I got off the service elevator. Everybody's losing their mind because it's a BYU game. And then I got onto the regular elevator. Well, excuse me, let me back up. Coach Izzo and some of his guys got on the service elevator. We all went up together, and when we got off on the top floor, and he let me go first, and he yelled out, "What a great place to have a party." It was pretty comical, given the state that we live in and all the beliefs and whatever else, but people couldn't get their head around the fact that it was a private event. It was the alumni, and yes, it was okay to have that on that floor.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, well, thank you for the phone call, Frazier. Yeah, he's got a great sense of humor, so that story doesn't shock me one iota. All right, let's bring on our next guest, Eric Longenhagen, on Twitter at Longenhagen, Fangraphs lead prospect analyst. He's got a book out. It's called Future Value, The Battle for Baseball's Soul, and How Teams Will Find the Next Superstar. When we get him on the line, I'm going to have to ask him, what exactly was the best route for the Yankees? Is it possible, one of my favorite phrases, a blessing in disguise, is it possible that it was a blessing in disguise that the Yankees, quote-unquote, lost out on Juan Soto, the most coveted free agent in baseball? And it was sort of a big deal. Sort of a big deal that Juan Soto chose the Mets over the Yankees. As I've detailed several times over the past couple of weeks, you're not used to the Mets being the chosen one between the two teams in New York, but that's what Juan Soto did. But Eric Longenhagen joins us right now on Twitter at Longenhagen. Eric, how are you? Thank you for joining me, sir.
Zakariah, I'm well. Thanks for having me on. I'm prepping for holiday travel tomorrow, so.
Oh, that's always fun, Eric.
Stress of that.
Yeah.
Well, I work on the Cubs prospect list.
Ah, okay. Well, I mean, hopefully you won't have like young children traveling with you. But yeah, holiday travel, not always the bee's knees. Eric, I want to start, and I want to get to your book and a bunch of other stuff. But let's start with the Juan Soto sighting by the Mets. Now, as an A's fan growing up, I was constantly used to the Yankees signing everybody, spending more money than everybody. And all of a sudden now, you have Cohn, who is worth $16 billion with a B dollars, and you have Steinbrenner, Hank now, that is at $4 billion. So by my math, that's a quarter of the amount of money that that Steinbrenner is worth versus Cohn. So I guess maybe it's not too shocking that the coveted number one free agent for baseball in the offseason, Juan Soto, chose the Mets over the Yankees. But what did you make of that move?
Yeah, it's fascinating when you have like these tectonic shifts in the way our sports seem to work. In this case, it is just one man's financial might that seems like on its own, it's having that large of an impact. Obviously, like the Yankees as a brand, as a team, if we were going to sit here and draft, based on whatever their value as a franchise is, like all four professional sports leagues, the Yankees are going to go in the top 3 or 4 probably, like right up there with the Lakers and the Cowboys, I would guess.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so there's something to that. And ultimately, it wasn't all that much money difference between like what the Yankees were willing to offer and what the Mets were willing to offer. But yeah, look, I'm a guy who grew up an hour north of Philly. I do not like the Mets. It's a strange thing to watch a young, likely Hall of Fame player end up being, a Met via the sheer force of will of their owner. And yeah, it is. I do think it signals a sort of potential sea change. Now, 2 years ago, we were saying some similar stuff about Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander in the Mets, and that's why they play the game, as they say. And so we'll see how things go. Things did not, the Padres had a super team too with Juan Soto on it, and could not get that plane off the ground for various reasons. So. The bottom of your roster, the depth of your organization still has to be in such a way that you can compete with the Braves and the Phillies every day. And so, we're going to see how that goes. But, yeah, man, he's a monster. He's one of the best pure hitters in baseball. And now he plays for one of the game's Mickey Mouse, half-ass franchises. So we'll see how that goes.
Now, Eric, when you look at how it worked out for the Yankees, they essentially ended up getting either a first baseman or an outfielder, depending on where he actually plays. But a hitter, they got a reliever, a fantastic reliever, and they got a fantastic starting pitcher, pretty much all for about the same amount as Juan Soto was going to cost them. So based on all of the things that you do for Fangraphs, and, you're the lead prospect analyst, and, you break down how teams should spend their money, do you think that they were better off getting the 3-for-1, or was it almost a blessing in disguise that the Yankees did not land Juan Soto?
Well, I think, if they had signed Soto, there are still going to be players who fill the other positions. So it's really like Soto plus lesser versions of the, Max Fried type. There's nothing that would preclude them from having made the Cody Bellinger deal. Maybe they would have had to have given up more in the way of prospects or young players for Bellinger, so that the Cubs would have picked up more of his tab, rather than just getting Cody Poteet, so that the Yankees pay full freight of his contract. But yeah, I think there's something to be said about some of these teams who are top heavy. They really expose themselves to things like injury, or how well young players are ready to perform when they come up. I think this puts a little bit more onus on guys like Oswaldo Cabrera and Jason Dominguez and Oswald Peraza to play real roles for this team finally, after they've sort of been stagnant at AAA or injured in Dominguez's case for the last couple of years. Ozzy Peraza and Cabrera both I thought were borderline top 100 guys. Peraza was pretty comfortably a top 100 guy for me when he was still a prospect, but Gleyber Torres' presence, Anthony Volpe's emergence has kept him from getting regular playing time. DJ LeMahieu's contract has kept him from getting regular playing time. So I think the onus is on some of those young guys to perform and make this team a dangerous, deep lineup rather than a top-heavy one that's carried by 3 or 4 stars.
Speaking with Eric Longenhagen, Fangraphs lead prospect analyst right here on the Sean O'Connell Show. Zakariah holding it down, ESPN 700. We'll get to your book here in a second, Eric, and I don't mean to put you on the spot because this might not necessarily be your wheelhouse, so it can be all speculation. No one's going to hold you to this. But what have you heard in terms of Major League Baseball right now at 30 teams, looking to expand to 32 teams? I'm down here in Salt Lake City, Utah. I know they're hoping for this to be one of their destinations. The A's are already going to go to Las Vegas. They just cleared a bunch of hurdles, unfortunately, for me, as that was my childhood team. But that wouldn't be adding another team. So there's still going to be 2 other destinations that are added. What are you hearing? Does Oakland have a chance to be one of the 2 teams that are added? What have you heard about Salt Lake, Portland? What are the places that you're possibly hearing as the commissioner oftentimes talks about expansion?
Yeah, I'm very interested in expansion too because, of the jobs that I would leave, like my current position at Fangraphs, or working for an expansion team is high on my list. I've just sort of always been fascinated by literally building an organizational roster from scratch. And so, yeah, I think one of the boxes that had to get checked before MLB could, in good conscience, pursue expansion was solving the Rays and A's stadium situations. And now, there's still volatility around that, it would seem.
It's dead, Eric. It's dead, Eric. It's dead. It's never going to happen. And go ahead. Sorry.
It's just when you have hurricanes ripping the roof off of one of the stadiums that you're trying to leave, there are forces at play pushing you towards solutions in both realms. I don't know about Oakland. Obviously, these sports leagues, people who buy franchises, they want to go where they don't have to pay for as much of the facility as they possibly can, force the municipality to pay for. So, options are Nashville, Charlotte, Portland, yes, Salt Lake City, maybe revisitation in the Bay Area, I suppose. But ultimately, whichever of those locations is going to provide the most amount of money to build a facility, to build an entertainment district that surrounds the facility, infrastructure so that people can get to and from the stadium, that's probably where Major League Baseball is going to prioritize. I think that, we could pick and choose which of these spots are best for baseball. Obviously, Salt Lake City has proven that they can, support Big Four sports franchises, right? And, things seem to be going okay with the Zombie Coyotes. And that's great. I think that's a feather in the cap of SLC for sure. But the group that's been pushing for expansion in Nashville, that includes Dave Dombrowski and Dave Stewart. That's a pretty heavy group of well-connected people in baseball. And so I would guess that Nashville is one of whatever 2 potential expansion sites that Major League Baseball would consider before anything else. I would make Nashville among my, favorites in that regard. And then after that, I'm not sure. My fingers are crossed for Portland just because I have family in the Pacific Northwest.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think Salt Lake City would be an interesting option. And I feel terrible for what has happened in Oakland, obviously. It's not a good thing, and I wish that John Fisher had sold.
It's awful. Speaking of awful, at least for you, fantastic here for Salt Lake citizens, which is the, Coyotes basically moving over here to be the Utah Hockey Club. Before we get to that, I do want to ask you about your book. It's entitled Future Value, The Battle for Baseball's Soul and How Teams Will Find the Next Superstar. Talk to me about that and how it's relevant to the current MLB.
Yeah, it was, I guess the elevator pitch that Kylie McDaniel, who co-authored it with me, that we had for it is baseball scouting, Kitchen Confidential, where we sort of gave you a state of the industry. The book came out in April of 2020. I don't remember. There was other stuff going on then that stopped us from doing a tour and all that. But, it's a bunch of scouting stories. It's a state of the industry essay book about where baseball scouting is at this time. A lot of the stuff that we talk about looming in the book has now come to fruition. And honestly, faster than we would have anticipated. The pandemic and the lockout and stuff like that accelerated some of that, pivoting to video and data integration into player evaluation, fewer and fewer in-person boots on the ground scouts, more in-office analysts, the use of AI and large language models, visual AI. I mean, that's been going on in baseball and sports for a while. You're starting to see that tech and its impact trickle into our sports viewership. If you watch a lot of the primetime football games, I think it's the games on Prime, when there's a guy blitzing, you know how they get that little red halo around the guy who's about to blitz?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's amazing that the software knows that guy's going to blitz. Like, he hasn't really tipped it, but the software seems to pick it up. Baseball has been using tech like this for a long time. To see subtle changes in the way a pitcher's holding his glove or whatever as a way of tipping pitches. This is all stuff that we allude to in the book. And it's future value. It's available on Amazon. We sold enough copies that it went to paperback, which was super great considering it came out during the early part of the pandemic. But it is a state of the industry. It's almost like a textbook about how baseball scouting is done nowadays, with a bunch of stories as to how some of the prominent players from this generation were scouted, and why we think it's important for teams to pull back from some of this data-only approach, despite the impact it has on their budget, which is let's allocate money to player devs and R&D and take it away from scouting because it can be done mostly on video. And you're just losing a big edge when you do that.
I'll get you out of here on this, Eric, and this is less me making fun of you or poking fun at you and more me empathizing with you as I have to deal with my own soul searching in terms of who I'm going to root for with baseball. I think it's just going to be the A's no matter where they go. But as you texted me, I can talk Coyotes like a jealous ex-boyfriend. For the people listening out there, the Coyotes basically made the move over here to Salt Lake City and are now, for the most part, the Utah Hockey Club. What did you make of the move? How hard did it hit? And moving forward, are you following the Utah Hockey Club because there's a lot of the remnants from the Coyotes, or have you chosen a different team? Are you a fan, free agent? Talk to me about that whole thing, Eric.
Yeah, well, I grew up outside Allentown, Pennsylvania, a little town called Catasauqua. And so, I grew up a Flyers fan, but I've lived here in Phoenix for 10 years now. And so, to a large extent, I've adopted the sports teams here. And even, when the Coyotes moved to Tempe to play at, Arizona State's Mullet Arena and have 5,000-seat arena, that's 6 miles north of my house. I could literally ride my bike to see an NHL game. And I did. I got to see the Flyers there. I got to see Austin Matthews score his 50th goal last year there in his hometown. It was amazing. You could see the growth of the young players, and it was a beautiful thing. And I'm one of those people who voted no, to have my tax dollars help support the construction of a stadium. And so I suppose I reaped what I sowed in this case, and I have to live with that, and that's fine. But like you said, empathy is the key here, where I now have an understanding of what Seattle Sonics fans went through, or Montreal Expos fans went through, or my uncle Phil grew up a Baltimore Colts fan, and stuff that he would talk about, them leaving in the dead of night. And so I think this is one of those things where your heart gets broken a little bit in this weird, specific way. And it's funny because I have tried to follow them. We don't have cable. I have ESPN Plus and all that. That's how I watch most of my hockey. And so they're still blacked out for me. If I had cable, I could still watch them, but I was hoping that with their move, it would mean that I could at least watch them through ESPN Plus. But now, no, the Knights and Utah are both blacked out for us here in Phoenix. So, I see how many points Dylan Gunther has from afar. I see how, Matias Michelli's not doing as well as I hoped he would do, and Nick Bukestad too, and Logan Cooley's, getting better. I see all that, but for the most part, we're watching the Flyers in the house now. I'm watching Michkov and hoping that this team continues to grow, and listening to Jim Jackson like I did when I was a kid. So our hockey consumption is down in the house for sure since the Yotes have left.
Eric Longenhagen, Fangraphs lead prospect analyst. Follow him on Twitter at Longenhagen and check out the book, Future Value, The Battle for Baseball's Soul and How Teams Will Find the Next Superstar. Eric, thank you so much for your time. Enjoy the rest of your week.
Zakariah, you too. Happy holidays.
There you go. Happy holidays to you as well. Eric Longenhagen, good stuff there. Yeah, I mean, baseball, I think, of all the sports, has the most analytics. I mean, you can really geek out on range, swing rate, whiff rate, K rate, hard hit balls that are caught, or, launch angles. Baseball's got to be numero uno for analytics. All right, coming up, bottom of the hour, final half an hour of the show. We will reset the polls again. Go ahead and vote, as I will give an update on it. It's up there for 24 hours, but if you want to be a part of the percentages now, ESPN 700 on Twitter, at ESPN 700. I'm at Zach Sports, ZAK Sports, and I'll see if Z-Rob, I don't have the text line up over here at Beer Bar, which, by the way, you should come join me at Beer Bar. I'm about to have some lunch, maybe have an adult beverage to wind down my day when I get off at 2, but I am at 161 East, 200 South, heart of downtown Salt Lake. Beer Bar. Again, 161 East, 200 South. We will clean up the polls. We will maybe read some texts. And we'll do much, much more in the final half an hour of the Sean O'Connell Show. Zakariah holding it down right here. ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Welcome back to the program. It is the Sean O'Connell Show. Zakariah holding it down right here, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. I am live at the beer bar. We got some people here doing some work. I see some laptops. I see some brewskis. I see some food, which I am going to indulge in about 25 minutes, because at the beer bar, the food is made in-house from scratch, including dressings and sauces. Our fries are hand-cut from famous Idaho Spuds, and the brats and burgers are always fresh here. Enjoy. Come down. Say hello. We got some soccer on. Looks like Arsenal's still down 0-1. That first goal came early and often, much to the disappointment of a couple of Arsenal fans that are here in the building. Coming up at about 1:45, topical trivia. Do you want some gift cards from Lemon Shark Poke? I think that you do. Do you want 2 tickets to see Toto, Christopher Cross, and Men at Work, who are coming to Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater on 8/27 of next year? I believe that you do. So all you got to do is answer a trivia question, topical trivia question, that I will not reveal until about 1:45-ish. If you answer it correctly, you text in the proper answer to that, you will get those gifts that I just stated. Want to remind you, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM and the Rocky Mountain Chevy dealers invite you to help those at the road home this holiday season with needed blankets, coats, shoes, hats, and gloves. Drop off donations at any Rocky Mountain Chevy dealer. Visit ESPN700sports.com for dealer locations. Spread the warmth and help others find their way home. I believe I will be at road home the next couple of days, Z-Rob. Am I correct on that? Do we have locations for that?
I'm not sure, actually. I'm not in the loop with that, but
okay,
I'm sure that there will be a few locations.
I'm sure I'll announce it on Twitter. I'm at Zach Sports, by the way. Follow me on Twitter for all the details of when I'm broadcasting and whatnot. At Zach Sports, ZAK Sports. Of course, the station where we put up the poll is at ESPN 700. The question was, player or coach, who was the most shocking person to make the move from BYU to Utah or vice versa? Are you as surprised as me at this result? You know, I've gone back and forth. Some of the questions, you know, the results have been what I thought they would be. Others not so much. In this instance, I'm a little bit surprised. The winner of the poll, or the answer that was most voted on, Jay Hill at 44%.
It's a crazy thing for sure.
I thought it was going to be a lot higher for either Kyle Whittingham, who came in at 26%, or Kalani Sitake, who came in at 14%, and then other was 16%. But not a lot of people said who the other was. Again, if you're voting on these polls, try to put who is the other.
One said Gary Anderson in the comment, but I'm actually surprised about Jay Hill. You know, I was thinking it would be Sitake, honestly, you know, and
that was my vote. That's who I voted for.
That would be my vote too. But, you know, Jay Hill was a great defensive coordinator here at Utah, but it led to the hiring of Morgan Scalley. So that's the thing that's to be considered, is that Utah's defense still remains a good defense either way. And look at BYU. Look at BYU's defense this year. They balled out.
Yeah.
You know? And granted, like, he was in the coaching pool for getting hired at Utah State, but that went to Bronco Mendenhall, but still.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
No, yeah, for sure. And, I would say, in terms of that, like, I thought Kyle would get a lot of it just because of the name recognition and that he went there and played there and his father coached there. But he didn't, he coached there for whatever, like a year, I believe, and it wasn't even a prominent position. Sitake had a big role at Utah before taking the head coaching job at BYU. So, yeah, I figured that would be it. But no, Jay Hill, 44%. So a much higher percentage than I figured it would have been. So just some notes around the world of sports, and we'll do a little bit of fun in the 40s, fun in the 50s coming up next, as there's no crosstalk with Spence Checketts as he's on remote, as well as I'm on remote. So it's probably too much to figure out all the technology to cross the lines and have us both on air and all that stuff. So no crosstalk. So we'll do one more segment of fun in the 40s and the 50s Jerry Jones getting an award he probably did not want. So I'll give you the details on that. And again, like I said, we're going to have some topical trivia for you to get some Lemon Shark Poke gift cards and 2 tickets to see Toto, Christopher Cross, and Men at Work. So we'll do that in the final segment. But right now, just to touch on a couple of things that took place in the world of sports. Kirk Cousins, after getting a fat deal in the offseason, moving from the Vikings to the Falcons, has been benched for one of my favorite college athletes of all time in Penix Jr. out of Washington.
You like that? You like that?
There it is. You like that? Yes, as he had some fun times with Washington. Oh, and by the way, if you're watching it, where's the clapping from my Arsenal people? Where's the clapping? Arsenal has tied it up against Crystal or Cristal. I don't know.
Yeah, Crystal Palace.
Yeah, I was hoping that my Arsenal people were going to go crazy, but I didn't see any emotion. But that score is now tied up 1-1. Oh, is that another? Or is that a replay? Oh, that was it.
That's the replay. They usually replay and keep the scoreboard the same, and the clock keeps running. So that's how it kind of works in the soccer world. It can be confusing sometimes, but my buddy Thatcher's an Arsenal fan. He's probably like, yes, it's tied. Now.
Yeah, for sure. So anyways, Kirk Cousins, you like that. I'm sure he doesn't like that, getting benched, even coming off a win. It's rare that you see a benching coming off a win, but as I quoted Rosie Perez from White Man Can't Jump earlier in the show, sometimes when you win, you really lose. And winning 15-9 over a very deplorable, disgusting, horrible, god-awful, tanking for a top pick so they can get a quarterback in there, Las Vegas Raiders, you got to win in a more comfortable and convincing fashion than they did, so they chose to get out ahead of it, I would say. Because you know what, I would like to look at, I will Google that. I will make that my homework assignment. Tonight I'm gonna Google when is the last time a quarterback got benched coming off of a win. So that was one of the news, and then the other news, and I wonder how many people out there give a hoot. Obviously, if the Jazz were involved in the Emirates in-season NBA Cup, which was won by the Bucks over the Thunder, I believe that was an upset. I don't know what the line was, but I'm pretty sure the Thunder were favorites. And Giannis Antetokounmpo got the MVP. And I thought it was a little over the top. I got to be honest. I'm usually not the person to rain on people's parade or to be the, the pea in the Cheerios or the stick in the mud, if you will. There's countless phrases about that. I usually love celebrations, even if other people think that it's over the top or unwarranted or whatever. But I did not like that one bit. They had confetti. They were holding the trophy over their head. Look, it's cute. It's cool. I'm especially happy for the players that are lower on the bench that got the monetary award for the Bucks winning the title. Happy for those guys because not everybody can make $40, $50 million a year. So the guys that are making still a decent amount of coin, but, they're not making life-altering, crazy-changing money where you never have to worry about money again. For those guys, I'm excited for them. So if they celebrated like that, fine. But Dame Lillard, who's never won a title, and Giannis, who's won one, you can't be holding the trophy over your head and having confetti. And now the confetti's not their fault. That's probably the NBA's doing. And I know the NBA is doing their damnedest and hardest to make the regular season relevant because players don't seem to really care. I have a lot of friends that don't really check in on the NBA. A lot check in on Christmas, which is coming around the corner. But a lot of them only really pay attention when it's playoff time. And that's because, what they say to me is, if the players don't care, why would I?
I feel like that's the same thing with hockey, too. I've seen that a lot of notice with hockey as well.
Yeah, but I think hockey players try more during the regular season. I pay attention only, I'm going to a game tonight, so it's not like I, don't have my ear to the ground on it. But that's because, it depends on where it ranks in your level of caring for sports. Like football, basketball, and baseball, I love so dearly. I watch any regular season of that. And then hockey, it's more for me for the playoffs. And like with soccer too, like I'll watch the World Cup and the Euro Cup, but I'm not living and dying on every regular season game. So I think it depends on that. But if just for hockey fans in general, I think the players care more about the regular season than NBA players care about the regular season in the NBA.
Yeah.
So anyways, those were the two big things, as Wednesday is usually one of the slower days in the sports world, but those were two things that caught my eye. Kirk Cousins, you don't often see, number one, a team benching their starting quarterback coming off of a win, or a starting quarterback that signed a fat deal in the offseason getting benched in the middle of the year. But here comes the rook, Penix Jr. Again, he was fascinating to watch in college, if he's even a piece of what he was in college at the NFL level. I'll tell you this, I would not be normally tuned into a Falcons game. I will be tuned into the next Falcons game to see how Michael Penix Jr. does. All right, coming up next, topical trivia. Who wants to win some Lemon Shark Poke gift cards? 2 tickets to see Toto, Christopher Cross, and Men at Work coming to Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater on 8/27. All you got to do is text in the correct answer, and you will win. Again, come down and see me. I'm at Beer Bar. Good food, good beverages. Come on down and see me, and we will close it out with some topical trivia and a little fun in the 50s/40s. All that coming up next. You're listening to the Sean O'Connell Show. Zakariah holding it down right here, ESPN 700. First Credit Union Amphitheater on 8/27. Coming up top of the hour, you know it, I know it. It is The Drive with Spence Checketts. He always has a fantastic guest list. Plus, he will keep you informed and entertained as you go throughout the latter portion of your day. It is The Drive with Spence Checketts at the top of the hour. All right, a little something for good old Jerry Jones, our guy, Jerry Jones. And by the way, I am at Beer Bar. Come down and see me. I'm hanging out. I'm about to have some lunch. And I am located in the heart of downtown, 161 East, 200 South. They got 100 beers with 30 on tap, amazing burgers, amazing brats, fries, salads, soups, sourdough bread, whatever you want. 161 East, 200 South. Come say hello to me down at the Beer Bar, as I have been here all day long. Now, good old Jerry Jones, winning awards that you just don't want to win. It's been a very ugly year for the Cowboys. I believe they did. I think they have won a home game. For a while there, they were winless at home. And then it dated back to last year. But Dak Prescott gets hurt. It's been ugly for the Cowboys. And, you know, they call them America's team. I don't know why. Because they haven't won a Super Bowl in a long, long time. But that's still what they're called. And, I don't exactly know what they're going to do. I was reading an article earlier that the budget problem for the Cowboys does not stop with just their stars. But now they have to be worried about Cooper Rush, who's going to be a free agent in 2025, and they're going to have to maybe pay him. He's 3-3 as a starter in relief of Prescott. His career total as a starter is 8-4. Remember, he had to come in for Dak last year as well. And according to Pro Football Reference, in 2024, he has completed 60% of his passes, thrown for 1,405 yards, 10 touchdowns, just 3 interceptions. His performances have been inconsistent, but the last game he threw 3 touchdowns and 214 yards in the Cowboys' 30-14 victory over the Panthers. Anyways, his 2-year, $5 million contract expires in the spring. So they might have to figure out a way to pay him after they just gave Dak every penny that he wanted. But needless to say, it has been a disaster for Jerry Jones, and I think a lot of Cowboy fans are starting to get fed up and want to have somebody else running the program. I don't know how much his sons are involved, but I know Jerry does not seem like the kind of guy that likes to relinquish any of his power and is possibly delusional as he gets older in age into just how fit and competent he is to run the show. Now, they've had great draft picks, but they have totally flamed out in the playoffs. Anyways, he won an award every year, Texas Monthly. And you know he knows everything. He goes on the radio. He likes to talk to the newspapers. He goes on TV. Jerry loves himself some Jerry. But every year, Texas Monthly dishes out its end-of-the-year awards. And despite positive things to look forward to, they give out the Brisket Powell, the Glenn Powell's dog, Man of the Year, all that good stuff. They also give out the Bum Steer of the Year award. Now, I was not raised in cow country, but I believe a steer. They got horns, all that good stuff, and it's down there in Texas. But Bum Steer is not a compliment. It's an insult. And the Bum Steer of the Year, according to Texas Monthly Leadership, it's a comedic way to hold powerful people in Texas accountable. And although he'd rather blame everything, including the sun, literally, if you remember CeeDee Lamb unable to see a wide-open touchdown pass in the end zone. So he'd rather blame everything, including the sun and under the sun, for the way his team has been playing. The Texas Monthly has handed the title of Bum Steer of the Award 2024 to Jerry Jones. So they have gone from America's team to America's laughingstock. It's been an ugly year for the Cowboys, but I found that to be funny because I guarantee you Jerry Jones knows every radio, newspaper, magazine, any sort of thing that goes to the press. He's well aware of it, and that's got to hurt to get Bum Steer of the Year.
I've never heard of that before.
That is so perfectly Texas.
Yep, I agree.
All right. Well, if you see me, I'm the 6'6", 220 guy at tonight's Utah Hockey Club game. I'll be roaming around. I'll do a little press box action. I'll also just, want to be amongst the the fans, if you do go to the game, Canucks Utah Hockey Club, make sure you bundle up. It is cold. That ice puts off a lot of cold. That'll do it for me. I will be here Thursday and Friday, closing out the week before the man of the show, Sean O'Connell, returns from his 2-week vacation next Monday. And make sure you stay tuned for The Drive with Spence Checketts. All of that is coming up next. You've been listening. Oh, and if you're around, I'll be around for another, I don't know, half an hour, 45 minutes, maybe an hour. Depends on how long it takes me to eat my lunch. But I'll be around here at the beer bar. Come on down and see me, say hello, and that'll do it for me. You've been listening to the Sean O'Connell Show. His guy, Zakariah, holding it down right here, ESPN 700.